So how did three guys who aren't even from the hotel industry use an air mattress to disrupt the Hilton, Marriott, and Best Western groups of hotels? Disruptive innovation explains Airbnb, as well as the fall of Kodak to shitty digital cameras, the fall of AT&T to pixelated Skype calls, and the fall of HBO to homemade YouTube videos. In this video, I'll cover everything that you need to know about the framework of disruptive innovation and how new products and services end up disrupting existing markets and displacing existing dominant companies. Hey, my name's Akash. I have a decade of product experience. I'm a Harvard MBA grad and angel invest in startups. On this channel, we talk about ways to level up your product management skills and career. Let's go. So the story of Airbnb actually starts back in 2007 when Brian Chesky and Joe Gebbia moved to San Francisco and couldn't afford to pay their high apartment rents. They needed to make some quick cash and saw an opportunity when all the hotels in the area were sold out for an upcoming design conference. Being scrappy and entrepreneurial, they blew up and filled 3 air mattresses in their apartment, put up ads on Craigslist, and actually hosted 3 people from around the world on air mattresses in their apartment. This was the launch of AirBed&Breakfast. So as they built their website and kept iterating on their product, they ended up pitching this idea to angel investors to keep the company going. And this was so innovative that everyone around them thought that this was the dumbest idea ever. Why the hell would anyone want to stay on an air mattress in a stranger's home? So this reaction is explained by the first rule of disruptive innovation. There are 2 types of innovations, sustaining and disruptive. Sustaining innovations involve incremental improvements to existing products and services that are meant to cater to the company's current set of customers. This is what we commonly see and come across every day. The new iPhone 14 Pro by Apple, for example, is a sustaining innovation. Disruptive innovation, on the other hand, involves creating new products and services that are actually lower in performance than the existing products, but rapidly increase and become better than the existing products and services. An example of this is the first digital camera, which was much worse than the existing film cameras at the time, but it quickly improved in quality to the point where it disrupted Kodak and Polaroid because they became much better than the film camera alternatives. So in the 2000s, hotels were judged based on comfort, amenities, hospitality, and dining experiences. Airbnb was not better at any of those things. No investors thought that this was a good idea, and the hotels didn't even think that this was a credible threat that they should waste any thought on. The founders even resorted to selling a few hundred boxes of cereal in order to keep the company afloat. But what nobody realized was that this platform caters to travelers who didn't have as high requirements and demands from when they traveled and were looking for cheaper and more experience-based options when they traveled. Okay, now the second rule of disruption. Disruptive innovation starts by catering to a customer segment that has the lowest performance requirements or isn't being catered to at all by the existing products and services. Airbnb was actually doing both of these. It catered to hotel guests who were looking for cheaper options because they didn't care about the check-in experience or the hotel pool and minibar. All they wanted was a cheap option for when they traveled for a conference or to a new city. Airbnb also catered to a whole new set of customer requirements, like group stays where people wanted to stay together in a group of 5, 10, 15 or more people. There were also travelers who were looking to interact with the locals whenever they were traveling to a new city, which was something that they didn't get at a hotel because everyone there was a visitor. Disruptive innovation often occurs when established companies overlook new customer trends and needs and new technologies. They may ignore new customer needs and requirements that are being told to them and underestimate new technologies that are just emerging and not good enough yet. This leaves them vulnerable to be disrupted by newer and more agile companies and startups in the space. For hotels, they didn't react to Airbnb until it was too late. Even in 2010, when Airbnb was starting to gain traction and get a lot of people onto their platform, the hotels went to their top paying guests and travelers and asked them, would you stay at an Airbnb? And all of them came back with a resounding no, because Airbnb wasn't good enough to cater to their needs yet. And so hotels just ignored it. But the mistake that everyone made was that Airbnb was rapidly improving in order to cater to higher customer segments as well as new customer segments that weren't being served by the existing products and services. Airbnb is on a mission to define the future of the travel industry. Without getting into all of the details, disruptive innovation actually stems from 4 key factors: technological enablers, new business models, shifting customer trends, and new market dynamics. So this brings us to the most important insight of disruptive innovation from Professor Clay Christensen. Even when incumbent companies see new technologies and changes coming, they just don't have the incentives or motivations to fight this and figure out how to not get disrupted. So they lose customer segments starting from the bottom, and then quickly they start losing each successive customer segment until their entire company and industry has been disrupted. This happened to Blockbuster, Nokia, Barnes & Noble, Xerox, and many more companies over the years. But the good news is that Professor Clay Christensen actually gave us a framework to combat disruption, and I cover all of that in this next video. This has been successfully used by Apple, Netflix, Microsoft, and many more companies to avoid disruption.